It is my pleasure to welcome some of our apprentices at the back and hope you enjoy this meeting, as well as the other visitors that are here and those of you who are watching this at home. We begin our meeting today with apologies for absence. Do we have apologies for absence? Thank you. I think that's it. Okay, so we move on to minutes of the meeting that we had in September on the 21st, and I'll sign these as a true record later on if you're all happy with that. Agreed. Can I have a vote on that, please? Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you. Do you agree with these minutes, Councillor Horncastle? Sorry, I don't think you showed them. Yes? Okay. Thank you very much. So I'll deal with those later on. We now move on to disclosure of members' interest. Does anyone have any interest to declare that are relevant to this meeting today? No. No? Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Now we move on to a very important matter, which is the consultation on the Berwick partnership. The schools in Barrack are exceptionally important to us, each and every one of them, and we need to make sure that we do the very best we can for the town, for the county, and particularly for the children and students involved there. So we have got with us this morning Sue Aviston, who I'm going to ask to give us a rundown of where we've got to and our plans for making sure that we do this next step very carefully and in great detail with everyone involved.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, the report in front of you this morning sets out the feedback from stakeholders arising from the Phase 1 informal consultation, where schools and the wider Berwick community were asked their views on whether the Phase 2 informal consultation should consist of only models around a 3-tier system of organisation or a 2-tier model of organisation. So you will remember, Cabinet, you approved on the 12th of April the Phase 1 consultation, which began on the 23rd of May and concluded at midnight on the 12th of August. The method and format used to carry out the consultation is set out in paragraphs 14 to 20 and followed our usual practice around producing a consultation document that was circulated to parents, staff, governors and other stakeholders across the Berwick community. We also had a dedicated consultation Padlet, which is something that we developed during the COVID pandemic when we couldn't meet face-to-face during consultation periods. So we've continued to use that, and that's where we hold all consultation documents as well as frequently asked questions and other information that comes to light actually during the consultation process. As we have now been able to hold public events, we also held 2 public events, one in Belford and one in Berwick. They were attended by 58 people, 32 of which were parents and members of the public, and the remaining 26 were either staff or governors. And there was also a staff-only event that took place in Berwick where 28 members of school staff attended. The feedback and analysis from the consultation is summarised in paragraphs 21 to 52, with a brief summary being as follows. A summary of the governing body responses are contained in paragraphs 24 to 39, with full copies of the responses contained in the background papers, as well as hard copies being placed in members' lounges. And again, these can be summarised further. Of the 15 governing bodies of schools within the Berwick Partnership, 9 responded to say that they were in favour of the 2-tier system. That's 7 of the first schools, the high school, and 1 joint governing body that's responsible for 1 first school and 1 middle school. 4 schools were also strongly in favour of a 3-tier system, 2 of the middle schools in Berwick Town and 2 of the town first schools, and the remaining 2 schools stated that they didn't have a preference. However, one of these was the Grove Special School and they wouldn't be directly impacted on the reorganisation of other schools. We also received responses from 73 staff working in schools in the Berwick Partnership who responded to the consultation, and again a breakdown of their responses is contained in paragraph 40 of your report, which again shows the majority of middle school staff supporting the three-tier system, all of the high school staff supporting the two-tier system, and a mixed response from those staff in first schools, with 8 of those that responded preferring primary and 6 supporting the three-tier system. We also received a response from the Church of England, Newcastle Diocesan Education Board, and again they have indicated that they would be in favour of a two-tier system over a mixed system of education that currently exists within the Barrack area. Just also to be noted that the diocesan represents 6 of the 17 schools in the partnership are of C of E faith. And again, a summary of their responses contained in paragraph 4. We received 2 responses from 2 of the parish councils, and they responded to consultation, both asking for Belford Primary and its education catchment area to be moved to the ANIC partnership. In terms of the wider community, we did send out just over 6,300 consultation documents via a link, and of those we received 365 responses were actually received, which, when taken into context of the just over 2,000 pupils on rolls in the Barrack School, is probably lower than we had hoped for. And is also slightly lower than the 436 responses that we received to the previous community survey that we ran and we reported back to Cabinet in April. And again, really just to remind Cabinet, as we always do when we present findings on consultation, that consultation isn't a referendum, and the numbers that we've stated within the report should be seen as an indication of the current views of the community that have responded and should be taken into consideration, but should not be the determining factor when we make the decision moving forward with the next steps of this consultation. So really just to highlight, we did receive 194 responses from the community that supported the view that the Berwick schools should remain organised into the three-tier system. 95 of those responses were from parents and children in Berwick schools, and again the reasons for preferring the three-tier system are contained within paragraphs 45 of your report. The responses from the Berwick community, again, 142 supported the view that schools in the Berwick partnership should be organised into a two-tier system, and again 63 of these responses were for parents of children in the Berwick schools. And again, the main reasons given for preferring the two-tier system is contained in paragraph 46 of your report. 29 also did respond to say that they weren't clear in their own view as to which system that they would actually prefer. So 29 didn't express a view one way or the other. So during this consultation, we also asked 5 specific questions around schools, a couple of schools changing partnership, as well as direct questions around special educational needs, early years and post-16 provision. The feedback to these questions are contained in paragraphs 48 to 52 of your report, but can be summarised as follows. So one of the questions we did ask was, do you think Glendale Middle School and Wooler First School should remain in the Barrack Partnership or move to the ANIC Partnership? We received 28 responses from consultees that had a direct link with Wooler or Glendale schools. And of these, 8 favoured the school remaining in the Barrack Partnership, and 16 favoured them moving to the ANIC Partnership, and 4 selected that they didn't know. We also asked the question around Belford and its move, whether it should remain in the Barrack Partnership or move to the ANIC Partnership. Again, we did receive 28 responses from people that had a direct link with that community, particularly parents of children on the roll of the school, or a governor or a member of staff. And again, 2 of those responses favoured remaining in the Barrack Partnership, and 26 favoured moving to the ANIC Partnership, as did the governing body of that school as well. We also asked suggestions around special educational needs and how the growing provision could be delivered within the Berwick Partnership, particularly around children and young people being assessed as having a need of social, emotional and mental health needs, as well as ASD. We received a further 192 comments were submitted by consultees, and again a themed list of the reasons are contained in paragraph 50 of your report. And these include some of the suggestions around rebuilding and expanding the existing special school in the area of the Grove to increase its capacity to cater for children and with a wider range of issues. We also received suggestions around alternative provision sites that offer smaller intervention work on short-term placements and then work very close with mainstream schools, as well as suggestions around primary and secondary schools having outreach, primary support-based units and specialist provision based on the mainstream school sites. We also asked around early years and the provision within the Barrack partnership, and again we received 128 comments on the early years provision were submitted by consultees. Overall, everyone that responded to the consultation felt that early years provision in Berwick was of a high standard and offered a wide range of options for parents, although there were some specific concerns from some smaller rural communities around the sufficiency of provision as well as for specific age groups. And again, all that detail is contained within your report. We also asked the specific question around post-16 provision in the Barrack partnership and how that could be developed or improved. As we know, it was a particular concern from the local elected members when agreeing to invest in the Barrack partnership. So again, we received 102 comments by consultees were submitted, again suggesting that there needed to be further investment in post-16 education, that the pupils and young people themselves needed more advice, including career guidance and how beneficial that would be, and also lots of information around more choice being available in the local area, as well as some concerns around transport and free provision of transport. But again, all of those issues are contained within the report. As we always do with consultation, we always ask for alternative proposals. And from the consultation responses that we received, we got 115 comments in respect to alternative proposals, both within the 3-tier organisation and a 2-tier organisation. And again, these are summarised in paragraphs 53 of your report. And some of these aspects of the proposals relating to first schools may be able to be explored during the phase 2 consultation in relation to the models that you can see within the report, again contained in paragraphs 55 and 56. So in conclusion, it has been consistently reiterated during consultation on school structures that it is not a referendum. However, while the feedback from phase 1 consultation has been interesting, it has not been conclusive. And in relation to a favoured model of organisation in the Barrack partnership. However, whilst the majority of schools, 9 out of the 15, are in favour of reorganisation to a primary-secondary system, the responses from parents, staff and the wider community appear to be split almost equally within the responses that we've received. Therefore, given the feedback submitted by respondees to this phase 1 consultation and in relation to the benefits and negatives of both systems, it is proposed that it would not be appropriate to take forward only one model of organisation of schools into the next phase of informal consultation. Therefore, the report today is recommending that Cabinet approve a phase 2 consultation on both a revised 3-tier model and a 2-tier model of organisation, which are set out in paragraphs 56 and 57 of your report, and which reflect the changes required to schools in light of the issues set out in the background to the report, and the proposals also set out in options 2 to expand the provision around special educational needs, and again this is set out in detail in paragraphs 59. So in conclusion, paragraph 60 to 67 also set out the implications of the proposals or models within the report and the impact that would have on staff, catchment areas, transport, early years, post-16 and rural school provision. So it should also be noted that the recommended approach does not impact on the original timeline, and the outcomes of the phase 2 consultation will come back to Cabinet and fact scrutiny in early spring next year.
Thank you very much indeed. So what I'm planning to do is just to give you a précis of the recommendations. Then I'm going to highlight what our scrutiny committee made of this paper, and then open for discussion. So first of all, the recommendations are in précis form. The first three are around acknowledging and approving the consultation of Phase 1 consultation. The next one is around, number 4 is around agreeing to set away on a Phase 2 pre-consultation for 15 weeks. Those are school weeks. Setting out specific proposals for individual schools in the Barrack Partnership within both the 3- and 2-tier structure of the organisation as set out in Parish 56 and 57, in light of the significant support expressed for both models of organisations. Number 5 is around our wish to establish additional SEND provision within the Berwick area. Number 6 is to look at the draft models of school organisation within both the 3-tier and 2-tier structures as the basis for consultation, including proposals for school closures. Number 7 is to note the £40 million or the 39,896,000, but let's call it 40 million in round figures, that the council has earmarked for this project. That is a very, very significant amount of public money, but we are committed to improving and helping the school setups in Berwick and the area around Berwick. To then approve the expenditure of up to £250,000, £250,000, to begin a development on the outline business case in relation to recommendation 7. Number 9 is to delegate the decision to undertake further consultation with the interim Children's Services Director and Cabinet member. Number 10 is to note that we don't have the powers to propose or change organisations of academies. Therefore, Berwick Academy and St Cuthbert's Catholic First School would need us to discuss these things with the trustees and also the regional schools director. And finally, that should the Cabinet agree today to the second stage of consultation, the outcomes presented to the Cabinet may include a recommendation to permit the publication of statutory proposals in relation to relevant maintained schools, including closure proposals. The report was considered at length by our scrutiny committee, the Family and Children's Services Committee. I don't think we have a representative from that committee here today, but it is clear that they reported it. They looked at the report in great length, appreciated all the options, and they, like us, very much want the views of residents, schools, pupils and staff to be very much part of this consultation. We were asked to consider what influence might be gained from the GCSE results from Berwick Academy, which would be included, although that probably wouldn't be included until January 23, but they are keen to make that point. And the committee agrees to advise the Cabinet they supported the recommendations as outlined in the report. So that is where we are with this. Can I ask members of the Cabinet, are there any other comments from officers before I come to the Cabinet? No. Jeff Watson.
Just a question. Looking at the figures of people who are going outside of the partnership, and noting the 80-odd, I think it is, of Scottish schools, are they in a 2-tier or a 3-tier system? And I know the private schools will be under a 2-tier system, but what are the Scottish schools? And is this a factor that's affecting people's decisions to move the children?
Sue?
Obviously can't speak for the individual choices of parents, obviously, Councillor, but really just to say that they are organised in a 2-tier system across the border in Scotland, and also to the south of the Berwick Partnership in Alnwick is also organised into a 2-tier system. Obviously parents make choices around schools based on a very individual decision about meeting the needs of their children, so I couldn't comment on whether that is a deciding factor for individuals at all. Thanks.
Any more? No? Well, we've certainly had a very full discussion about the Berwick partnership and the schools, and the way we're going to do our very best to make sure we get the outcome that is best for the schools, the pupils, the staff and residents. And this is very much, we think, the best way to go about that. Rather than trying to force something, we want to go back and talk to as many people as we can again, and to get as many views as we can. And hopefully we will find consensus, and hopefully we'll be able to move on and get this money spent, because we have outlined and earmarked that money for 2 years now, and we're very keen to make sure that Berwick does get the funding it so richly deserves. So if there are no more, can I just refer you to the recommendations which I've briefly outlined. I won't read them all out, but they are there for you. There are 11 recommendations. Is there a proposal for those recommendations, please? Proposed by Jeff Watson, seconded by Councillor Wormouth. Can I please have a show of hands to show if you agree those recommendations? That's unanimous. So thank you very much indeed for that. And if anyone here has come from Berwick to listen to this, I hope that's been helpful, and we look forward to working with you as time progresses. We now move on to the next report, which is a report of the Interim Executive Director of Finance and 151 Officer about the Council Tax Support Scheme for 2023-24. I'm going to ask Councillor Wearmouth, who is our Cabinet Member for Money, to tell us about this, and then I'll ask Jan Willis to come in. Richard.
Thank you very much, Leader. So this is something that comes to the Council and to the Cabinet now every year. It's part of our budget setting process and sets the basis for the subsequent stages of the budget consultation and the finalisation of the budget that happens in February. So as per previous years, we're intending to provide 92% support, up to 92% support in terms of people who need for people who need that in terms of council tax support. That costs us, just so that people can understand the amount of money that we dedicate to making sure that we're helping people who need our help the most. It costs us £25.7 million to do that, and that is money that we're happy to put forward. There is every year there's discussion within the council about this package of support. In previous years, we have sought to address the last 8% as well, providing support to cover that last part of the support package by other means, and that's something that we'll explore as we continue through the budget process this year. I would observe that there are lots of other support schemes for people at the moment to help with the cost of living that's as a result of inflationary pressures and issues to do with the COVID supply chain that have caused disruption in the economy. So if we look to the support, for example, that the government's provided, there was a £400 sum to assist with energy bills. There was a further £650 available as a cost of living payment to those households on universal credit. A further £300 in addition for pensioners, and that's in addition to the money that's already received through in terms of support for winter fuel allowance. And a further £150 for people living on disability allowances, and then there was a discretionary sum of money that was provided by the government to the council, and the council have pulled together a bespoke package for Northumberland households, and councillors and members of the cabinet and others watching on YouTube will have seen maybe some unfortunate commentary in the press about off-grid households, suggesting that there was limited funds available. In fact, this council has provided £400 for all of those households that are living off-grid, because we recognise that's a very specific challenge that's faced by certain communities in Northumberland, and we're always very live to making sure that we represent all aspects of Northumberland life when we're developing these packages of support. I would observe the table in the report as well. On if you look at paragraph 17, Northumberland continues to be the second most generous in terms of council tax support of all North East councils. Only Durham provide 100% support level. Others provide far less than Northumberland, and that again strikes to our desire to help those that need our help the most through what might be a challenging winter ahead, even with all of the support packages that are available. So I shall leave it there and pass to Jan Willis.
Jan.
Thank you, Leader. I don't have anything further to add to what Councillor Wearmouth has already said, other than obviously we are waiting to hear from government about if they intend to have another round of council tax hardship funding for 23-24. As members will be aware, the date of the Chancellor's fiscal statement has been brought forward to the 31st of October. I think it's unlikely that we will have that detail in that announcement, and it may well be Christmas before we find out the shape of the local government finance settlement. But in the meantime, we will continue to explore other options to provide that additional support that Councillor Wearmouth's referred to for consideration as part of the overall budget package.
That's lovely. Thank you. Thank you both very much for that really good summary. Any questions? I can, just before I take questions, actually just let you know that the Corporate Service and Economic Growth Overview and Scrutiny Committee yesterday heard this report Councillor Wearmouth presented, and the committee asked for a briefing note which set out the specific government assistance that's already provided to the council to help with council tax. Members welcomed the assistance scheme, which were mostly targeted at the most vulnerable residents in the county, taking the majority of the liability for council tax out completely for them. We are not, as Jan has said, we're not yet clear about what hardship funds and schemes there might be available yet. And they supported the recommendation. And the recommendation is in front of you, which is to approve the council tax support scheme as attached in Appendix 1 to be adopted as the council's local scheme for 22-23. Are there any questions or any points anyone would like to raise before we go to the vote? In that case, could someone propose that for me? Please, proposed by Councillor Real, seconded by Councillor Riddle. Are you all in favour? Please show. Lovely. Thank you. That's unanimous. That's very, very good. Thank you. We now move on to Market Sustainability and Fair Cost of Care Fund 22-23. Councillor Patterson, I'm going to ask to do a brief introduction to this, and then we will pass over to Neil Bradley. Wendy.
Thank you, Chair. I just really wanted to talk about we as a council and how much we appreciate our home carers, and we wanted to make a commitment to a mileage allowance of 45 pence per mile to providers in order to benefit our carers, which we really, as I say, we cannot fault. The work they do in the community is wonderful.
Good. Thank you very much. Neil.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Yes, the paper here sets out to update Cabinet on where we're at with charging reform in Northumberland and as a national programme, and particularly the fair cost of care exercise, which has been a key component required by Department or by DHSC towards that move towards charging reform. And it also seeks Cabinet agreement on the proposed use of the associated grant funding of 1 million, which is what Councillor Patterson's just alluded to there. But I will just take us through some more of the detail of the report in relation to charging reform and fair cost of care. The government announced in September 21 reforms of adult social care charging. The central features of this, there are three of them. One will be the introduction of a cap on the lifetime amount that anybody will have to spend on adult personal care needs. There was also the right for people to be able to come, private payers to be able to come onto a local authority contract as part of this as well. And the third main component was a rise in the thresholds at which people become a full cost or private payer for their care from £23,250 up to £100,000. And this is expected to be implemented from October next year. Clearly, there will be a significant number of additional people who are not coming through the local authority contracting system who will hit that system off the back of those changes. And there is also the potential for care home providers to lose significant chunks of income because of the differential between private care home fees and local authority fees. And as part of that, the government has asked us to do a fair cost of care exercise, and it's asked every other local authority to do that, which is due to be returned to government by the end of this week on Friday. The key purpose of the exercise is to make sure that local authority fee rates, if they need to increase, will increase to a level that make care homes still viable within the new structure of the system that's actually being put in place. In Northumberland, the survey was carried out between June and August. It's a really unusual time to be implementing this. We're coming straight off the back of a COVID pandemic. Care providers had all sorts of unusual costs through the COVID pandemic, which makes this exercise extremely difficult to understand whether it's representative of a normal kind of working period for the care home sector, and clearly it wasn't in many cases. We also have a current problem with recruitment and retention across the care sector, which is well publicised, and we've brought to Cabinet previously, specifically in relation to home care, but we're starting to feel that within the care home sector as well. And there's wider uncertainties about the economy at the minute with inflation, with energy crisis, etc., which does make it an unusual time to do it, but with an October deadline looming, we are having to go through that. Alongside the surveys of care homes, the government did ask us to review fees within the home care sector as well. Now, the charging reforms are not as significant in the dom care sector in that people already have the right to ask the local authority to arrange their care for them there. But we understand the government had wider concerns about the state of the home care sector, and that was why we were asked to do that at the same time. So those two exercises have been completed together. I'll come back to the recommendations on the grant funding when I look back at the recommendations, and as I say, we're required to submit figures by the 14th of October for our understanding is of the cost of both those areas. The rest of the report, which I'm assuming people have read and I won't go through in page by page detail, though broadly sets out more of the background to that. Page 5 sets out a little bit more detail on charging reforms and the extension of the responsibilities through into page 6. Page 7, section 3, we've just detailed a little bit more about cost modelling there and Northumberland's experience of cost modelling. And this is an exercise that is fraught with difficulty and risk from a number of angles. Northumberland, way back in the early noughties, went through a cost modelling exercise that created a ratchet effect on fees within the authority, and we very quickly became one of the highest fee rate authorities within the North East, and we saw a significant increase in development of care home beds within Northumberland, and we ended up with significant overcapacity at that point in time, which again just highlights some of the risks and dangers of these exercises and how you interpret the results of them. Section 4 details a little bit more about how we've tackled the fair cost of care exercise this time around. We did engage a third-party organisation to assist us with the care home fee assessment and cost assessment. That was commercial.gov, and they were a very helpful conduit between the care homes and ourselves to get information through. We had a good response rate in Northumberland, better than many of our regional comparators, and certainly comparing nationally. We had 48 out of 70 providers who returned at the point that we drafted this report, and there have been a couple more since. Sections 4.3, 4.4 and 4.5 just highlight some of the difficulties with the exercise, though. We did have a national provider that gave only very basic information, and they did that across the country, so that made it quite difficult to understand their results. Another large provider submitted a blank return but a narrative letter on what they thought fees should be, which clearly wasn't the key purpose of the exercise in terms of understanding the detail. So we've had to try and work with a number of different styles of return, and obviously we've been taking guidance from Local Government Association, from DHSC and from others as this has developed throughout the summer in what was a very complex and very difficult exercise. I would just draw your attention to paragraph 4.8, which we would highlight this exercise does not commit the council to revising fee levels at this point in time. The key purpose of this exercise is to give the government the tools to understand the further impact of charging reform and to try and give them a better view of the impact on and how this might unravel going forward and what the costs might be nationally in terms of trying to implement this. But at this stage, it doesn't bind Northumberland to a change in fee levels. The latter parts of the report, section 5, just details what we've done around the dom care exercise, which was a simpler exercise, and we did this in-house with officers. And section 6 sets out some of the logic around how we intend to use the grant, which I'll just draw back through as I go back to the recommendations now. So with your permission, Chair, I would just ask Cabinet to confirm that we can use £310,000 of the Market Sustainability Fund to ask home care providers, and this is independent providers, not our own home care services or anything that's directly provided by the council, that we will reimburse them and increase their rates to facilitate them to pay 45 pence per mile to carers, which is the maximum threshold allowed by HMRC as well, before tax would kick in for carers, and that was what the councillor mentioned at the introduction to this. We would note that the full year cost of this is around 620,000 a year, and we would hope once we get a confirmation of what grant allocation we might get for this going forward that we could continue to fund that from there. But we would have to re-explore that with the Section 151 officer if that funding wasn't forthcoming to that level, and about how the council would maintain that. So we're just notifying you of that potential risk going forward. The grant conditions do allow us to hold back 25% of the grant for the administration of this exercise, which we're proposing to do, and that is a combination of the costs of commercial.gov plus our own internal officer time that's gone into it, which has been significant for this exercise. And then the balance we're looking to allocate to the dom care sector and the care home sector via a fairly simplistic standard percentage increase to fees, and this recognises the pressures on both those sectors at the minute via inflation in the economy, recruitment difficulties and an energy cost crisis that's ongoing at the minute. Recommendation 5 is just to note that the Director of Social Services, i.e. myself, will, on behalf of the Council, submit the information the DHSC requires on Friday. We are going right to the wire with this, as most other local authorities are, because we wanted to give providers the maximum time to give us information, and there has been legal advice coming through from LGA and other sources that's been, updates have been received as recently as 8 days ago, which we've been trying to interpret and make sure we get everything right in terms of what we submit. Section 6 just reminds you that this does not commit us to anything about fee levels at this point in time, and that we will be looking in the new year as to what the implications of this are once DHSC has had a chance to analyse this data. And Section 7 just notes to you that particular fact as well. The DHSC, we expect to come back to us. They may potentially ask us to revise the calculations that we've put forward along with other local authorities, and it is expected that we'll finalise the documentation in the new year, likely to be around February time, and I would propose that I bring that back to Cabinet in advance of that actually being publicised as the local authority's formal response to this exercise. I apologise that this is quite technical in terms of an issue, but that's just the harsh reality of it in terms of what we're dealing with. But thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm really glad you used the word complex, because it is complex. Yes. And we understand that there is an awful lot of work that still needs to be done by government and ourselves. But although complex, I'm very comforted by the fact that you are such a safe pair of hands and your team works so well. So thank you very much for that. For me, the first recommendation is the one that you particularly mentioned, the one about increasing the cost of travel for expenses for our carers, and then we move on to those other areas that you've kept us in the loop about, and we will continue to monitor as we go through. Are there any questions? John Riddle.
Rest of the county, where we do have problems with the sort of ongoing home care and the cost of diesel, etc. I do think that this is really showing that we're compassionate and that we recognise that it is hopefully a short-term problem in costs of fuel, etc., but that we need to address it. And, you know, I thank them for bringing this forward.
Good, thank you. Anything else from anyone else? If not, can we then go with these recommendations? They're in front of you. Is there a proposer? Proposed by Councillor Patterson and seconded by Councillor Watson. Thank you. You show if you are in favour. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Good. So now we move on to our next report, which is the joint charter between town, parish councils and community councils. This paper is before you. It is actually running slightly behind schedule because of the issues that we've had with COVID and staffing. However, this is a hugely important document because we must use this not just to say we have this charter and we'll do the best we can. We must say that we have this charter and we will fulfill what we say in it, and we will have a genuine and real and sound relationship between our parish town councils and community councils. And I think we have made great progress actually over the last year or two. We have offered visits by myself and by other cabinet members to parish and town councils, and they have been by and large welcomed. And we continue to offer that, and I will go anywhere to any parish or town council if they would like me to come up and speak to them, or down, or west, or wherever, any direction. The second point I would like to make is that we have not managed to have a local summit meeting because of COVID. We are going to reintroduce those in January, and Rob Murphin, who will give us more detail on those potentially, but we have got 3 dates in January where we will invite parish town councils, community councils from the west to come to Hexham, the north to come to Alnwick, sorry, and the central will be here in Morpeth. And the idea will be to hopefully get as many members, clerks, chairs, councillors to come, and we will have front-facing interaction between our key services and senior directors. All the cabinet will be present, and we will use that as an opportunity to just find out a bit more about what they would like us to do more. So it is a very genuine effort to build on the work that we've already achieved by improving relationships, and I want to see this work. Rob Murphin.
Thanks, Leader. Yeah, I can just confirm that the point that Glenn made, we've got provisional dates in for, we've got Alnwick on the evening of the 16th of January, County Hall on the evening of the 23rd of January, and Hexham, the Mart site, on the evening of the 24th of January. Just to complete what Glenn said, the paper in front of you includes the revised version of the Charter. It's the first substantive update since 2019. I'd just like to confirm to everyone that we've done this work with NALC, and they've been consultees to this, and there are 2 main changes to the document which relate to clarity on agreeing election charges with parish and town councils, and some clarification that no changes will be made to services and assets that town and parish councils run without their full agreement. Okay. And then there's an appendix which is the new version of the Charter, which sets out responsibilities and expectations on both the county council and constituent town and parish councils, and there's some clear commitments there to working together, and I think the report speaks for itself. Thanks, Glenn.
Excellent, good. Any questions about this? Wendy Patterson.
Thank you, Leader. Could I just ask Rob, would these meetings be hybrid? I'm thinking January weather. I'm thinking, say, Alnwick, people driving from Berwick down if it's a bad night. I just wondered if they would be made hybrid.
Let's keep these dates in the diary, because if we don't have dates in the diary, we don't have that commitment. If the weather turns nasty, we will rely on our snow ploughs and gritters. But if it's seriously bad, then obviously we will look to reorganise. But I would like these dates in people's diaries, and you know, we will do our very best to make those work, and thus allow people plenty of time to get diaries filled. Okay. But I accept what you say. I mean, it is dark and it's cold, and but what better way of spending a cold and dark evening than coming to meet the likes of you?
Absolutely, Glenn. Absolutely.
Precisely. Anything else from anyone else? No? You have the recommendation there. Would someone like to propose it? Proposed by Councillor Riddle, was it? And seconded by Councillor Wearmouth. Are you all in favour? Please show. That's lovely. Good. Now we come to Destination Management Plan 22 to 32. 10 years of plans and objectives to encourage more visitors to our beautiful county. Jeff, would you like to do a quick introduction, Jeff Watson, and then I'll pass to Nigel Walsh.
Thank you, Leader. I will. As you quite rightly say, tourism is very, very important to us here in Northumberland. It's probably our biggest single industry. This destination management plan looks at actually making things coordinate together, having places for people to go, people to understand where the really good places to go are in the county. And there's been a very, very good survey and a report prepared for you to see. Most of the Cabinet have been involved in discussions over the past few months, and it also went to scrutiny last week, where they fully endorsed this recommendation with, again, a great deal of discussion because it is so important. So I'll say no more and pass it on to Nigel Walsh, who will take us very briefly through this Northumberland Destination Management Plan.
Thank you, Nigel Walsh.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, thank you, Councillor Watson. Yes, Northumberland now undoubtedly recognised as a leading UK destination following unrivalled growth in both visitor numbers and the value of tourism. In fact, in 2012, we welcomed 8.9 million visitors to the county, who actually spent 707 million. However, we fast forward to 2019, 10.68 million people visit the county, and they spent 1.047 billion. Now, this significance is absolutely recognised in the Northumberland Economic Development Strategy, 2019 to 24. Tourism is in fact recognised as a key industrial growth opportunity alongside agri-tech, advanced manufacturing, healthcare, energy, offshore, wind and subsea. So in the context of this rapid growth, our challenge is to continue to attract that public sector and private sector investment, essentially create the conditions, but absolutely vital that we achieve the right balance between being an attractive destination for visitors and being mindful of the needs of residents, communities and the environment. And this is key to the destination management plan. I'm not going to go through the plan in detail. Thankfully, you've all had a chance to look at that. And as Councillor Watson said, it was given a good, significant consideration in scrutiny last week. I'd just like to say that the plan is a plan for the county, not just for the county council. We are a major stakeholder in this, and we do offer significant leadership, but it is a plan for the county. It's characterised absolutely by partnership. It's very much industry and stakeholder led. And at this point, Leader and Councillor Watson, I'd like to formally acknowledge our thanks to the countless public sector and private sector partners, businesses, large, small, organisations that have contributed to both the development of this plan, but are also key to its implementation going forward. I'd just like to assure members that the plan is absolutely based on evidence, so we feel we're as self-aware as we possibly can be, and we can plan with confidence for the future. So I'm not intending to go through the plan, Leader and Councillor Watson, any more than that, but absolutely will take any questions around vision, priorities or overall strategic aims.
Good, thank you for that. Very helpful summary. Any questions? Can I just ask how those involved in the tourism industry will get to see a copy of this plan?
Okay. We're actually having a tourism conference on the 1st of November. Also, the document will be effectively launched then. That will be effectively its regional launch. However, we will be asking all partners in the conference and also all the partners and members of the sector groups to actually advocate and distribute this alongside. I'm going to probably ask Neil to come in and probably some of the communication do for Visit Northumberland, if that's okay.
Thank you very much, Nigel. So in terms of the, In terms of the destination management plan process, we have also established an action planning forum where we invite all industry partners to be a part of. That forum is looking to address the 4 key priorities within the plan, and those are led actually by a mixture of industry representatives and also some executive from County Council to take those forward. We have approximately 85 on that circulation from the industry, so those are the key industry members that are contributing to the input and the actions from the destination management plan. Certainly in terms of the role that Visit Northumberland has as the official destination management organisation, we have direct engagement with over 400 different tourism businesses across the county. Clearly there are a lot more in terms of the numbers of businesses operating within the visitor economy, and it would be our ambition that this plan is used as the impetus really to encourage more of those visitor economy businesses to work more closely with us as Visit Northumberland moving forward.
Maureen, do you want to add anything?
No, I just think the launch will be quite an exciting event.
Good.
The partners will see that the campaign.
Good. Okay. Well, as you will remember, we've had 2 coastal summits meetings, which have been very successful. I had thought about asking for another one, but this actually would be probably best to have a bite-size briefing for local councils at 3 meeting dates. Just to remind us again what those dates were, Rob?
Those were the 16th, 23rd and 24th of January.
Okay, so can we make sure that either Neil or Nigel are very kindly present to do that little bit? So the idea of the summits is that people won't get talked at. It'll be a dialogue, but this is something I think a lot of parish council would be very interested in talking about and understanding. So let's make that, if that's okay, Jackie, can we include that in the agenda for those evenings? Good. Any other questions or points anyone would like to make? If not, can we go to the recommendation proposed by Councillor Watson, seconded by Councillor Patterson? All in favour, please. Yep, there we are. Thank you very much, and thank you, gentlemen, for that.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you.
Very good summary. I should also have added, actually, that the Scrutiny Committee fully, as Jeff said, fully agreed with the recommendations. So that's always good to have. Right. So next one's number 9, which is the report of the Interim Director of Communities and Business, working together with the voluntary community and social enterprise sectors. And that is going to be, I'm going to ask Councillor Patterson to do a very quick introduction, and then I'll pass on to Maureen Taylor.
The purpose of the report is to seek approval to expand the current Northumberland Communities Together and Voluntary Community and Social Enterprise Infrastructure Contract to include management of additional funding transferred to NCC from NHS Northumberland CCG, now the Integrated Care Board, under a Section 256 agreement to support the Thriving Together work between Northumberland Communities Together and the VCSE. By working together with partners, we are able to make personalised and appropriate responses, and that enables us to meet our resident needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Maureen.
Extend the current contract with the VCSE. This is the contract that we hold with Citizens Advice Bureau, who operate the contract under the brand of Thriving Together. This is a collaboration with the NHS, who have funded an allocation of 250,000 to provide some additional activity to look at population health management initiatives through the voluntary sector. I think this is a really great initiative. It's a good indication that we're working really closely as partners, and they recognise the work that the council's done with local community groups and through the Thriving Together offer. It is quite exciting. We will see how this develops, but it fits very well with the Tackling Inequalities programme, and we would like to see this develop in the next 12 months.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Any questions on this? Very good report. Very encouraging to see joint working, and very good to see all the work that Northumberland Communities Together are doing. And is Paul here? No. But please pass on our thanks, because it is absolutely the right thing to be doing. Anything from anyone? Everybody happy? Right. Well, in that case, we'll take a vote on this. Proposed by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Horncastle. Are you all in favour? I think that's unanimous again. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mo. And please pass on our thanks to Paul and the team. The next one is around supported accommodation and lodgings for care leavers and young homeless. This is asking permission to tender. I'm going to ask Graham to tell us a bit about this report. Graham.
Thank you, Leader. As you say, the paper is to request Cabinet permission to go to market to meet the range of needs for accommodation and support for our care leavers and young homeless for whom we have a statutory duty. The current framework has been in place since January 21 and is due to expire. And over the period of that framework, we've seen an increasing demand over that period, and do struggle at times to meet some of the more complex needs of our young people. And as you can see from the paper, the proposal is to put in a more flexible dynamic purchasing system, which will allow greater flexibility over a longer period of time to try and get services provided to meet those needs. And similarly, just to be aware that next year there will be further, we're unclear of what the impact will be, but Ofsted will be regulating that market from later in 2023, and we don't know what that impact that will have on providers. Hence the requesting consideration of a more flexible system over the period of time. As I say, this was presented to FACTS and was agreed, but similarly FACTS have also requested a more detailed report which will be presented to them about the range of services and the range of needs and how they are being met as we go forward.
Thank you for the summary. Any questions about this? Any points anyone wants to raise? No? So if there are no questions, can I move you to the recommendations? And there are 3. Is there a proposal for those? Councillor Horncastle, was it? Councillor Patterson? Proposed by Horncastle, seconded by Councillor Patterson. All in favour, please show. That's lovely. Thank you very much. And we also had the support of the Scrutiny Committee for those recommendations as well. So we move on now to the summary of new capital proposals considered by the Officer Capital Strategy Group. I'm going to ask Councillor Wearmouth to go through each one, and then ask Jan if she wishes to add anything. And then we will take a vote on each one. So we start off with the Ashington High Street Innovation Programme, a really exciting and important piece of work. Richard.
Thank you. It may be that Wojciech might like to add something to these in this one in particular, of course. So this is, as you say, an exciting 1.2 and a bit £1 million capital budget funding for Ashington High Street Innovation Programme, development of Ashington and to make sure that the centre of Ashington becomes a thriving part of our county is absolutely fundamental to everything we're wanting to do in the southeast corner. As part of this, we're allocating a sum of £435,000 from the Strategic Regeneration Reserve to acquire 2 to 4 Woodhorn Road. And this is to allow us to establish a gateway through from the Station Road, which has benefited from a number of renovations and revamps over the last few years, through into Portland Park, where we have already attracted Home Bargains, where the leisure centre is, and where we intend to construct the cinema in due course, which is part of a wider package of works that have been applied to for funding from national government as part of a town deal for Ashington. So a really great project that will see the centre of Ashington thrive as it should.
Excellent. Wojciech, would you like to add anything?
Yes, thank you, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Wehrmouth, for introducing that project. I would like to say it's a great news for the town, and that program will bring a range of improvements, from public realm improvements to make it easier and more pleasant to get around the centre, to cultural activities and business support program. And as Councillor Wehrmouth has mentioned, we are awaiting the outcome of the significant bid for levelling up funding for transformational improvements to the town centre, and that, in line with the Northumberland line, coming to the town will bring a very positive and bright future for Ashington. That's as much as I would like to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would like to thank the North of Tyne Combined Authority for helping us with our scheme here. That money is very much appreciated. This is part of our ambition to see our role played out as far as levelling up is concerned. Councillor Wehrmouth mentioned the fact that we have a town deal bid in with government, and we hope very much that that will be successful, and that will see a really, really big transformation of Ashington, just the same as we are seeing happening in Blythe with their town deal. So lots of things on the agenda for Ashington, quite rightly, and for the surrounding villages, which will benefit as well. This is perhaps the first step in that, and I'm grateful for the North of Tyne to help us with it. Jan, would you like to add anything?
No, Leader.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to take each one as we go. So this first one then, are you all happy with this? Could I have a proposer? Seconded, proposed by Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Patterson. All in favour, show. That's all in favour. That we're all happy with that one. Good. So thank you for that. I'm going to then move on to the Berwick Culture and Creative Zone. Richard Wehrmouth.
Thank you very much. So Berwick, as we all know, is a very historic town, rich in culture already, and this is intended to build on that. There's never enough drama and excitement in Berwick, so let's have some more of it. And this is £100,000 accepted from the North of Tyne Combined Authority into the council's budget to enable us to do some exciting things in Berwick.
Excellent. Jeff, do you want to add anything?
Just to say I'm very grateful, and this is a no-brainer, isn't it? We're taking £100,000 and we're going to use it to help Berwick. It's not costing us any money. So, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And again, I would like to thank the North of Tyne Combined Authority for everything that they have done to help this work. Berwick is actually an incredibly important town in Northumberland and in England. For all that happens there, and it's very, very rich in history in many ways, and I think this culture zone is going to be really, really important. And I thank the people that are involved in that, because they picked this up and they're running with it already, and there's significant work already underway. In addition to, example, the Literary Festival and other festivals that they have in Barrack. Did you want to add anything, Councillor Seymour, as a member for Berwick?
Yes, thank you very much, Leader. Yes, I would. I'd like to thank the North of Tyne for this grant, and it's very well accepted. We are getting lots of things for Berwick, and well deserved, because it's a fantastic place. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, so do you have anything to add to this, Jan?
No, Leader.
Thank you. It's nice that you're not saying, well, I don't think we can really afford it, or, you know, oh, it's going to be difficult to find the money. Anyway, that's fine. As long as you have no objections, we keep going along in the same way, we'll be fine. So there we are. There's a proposer for Councillor Wojciech and seconded by John Riddle. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Now, the local cycling and walking infrastructure. LC Whips, Richard.
Thank you. So this is three particular routes that we're bringing forward for where we're improving cycling and walking, and they are as follows. So we've got one that links Ponteland to the Callerton cycle route. We've got one that links Blythe Town Centre to the South Beach route, and a further one that links Ashington Town Centre to the North Seaton route. Each one comes with a package of funding from external sources, which we're very grateful for. Eases the burden on our own budget, and each one has some element of match funding, however, from within the local cycling and walking improvement plan budget that's part of our capital programme. So it's I won't bore you with the numbers. You can see them all there. They amount to many millions of pounds, or a number of millions of pounds in each case. It's a really important part of the council's plan to get people into more sustainable forms of travel and into enjoying the outdoors. So great projects that I'm sure will be very welcome in all three of those local communities.
Thank you, Richard. Councillor Watson.
Yeah, just to say that it's great for improving the health of our residents as well. With my portfolio for Healthy Lives, this is a really, really big thing. And it's not only for residents, but it's also a tourism attraction as well. And it's just wonderful to see this money coming through. It's something we've been trying to get from some time to improve our cycleways and walking infrastructure. And this is going to help us enormously.
Good. Thank you. I'm sure it will. John Riddle.
Thank you, Leader. As chair of the Cycling and Walking Board, I'm obviously delighted that we've got this funding, much of it external funding that's been attracted. You know, this is totaling 4.8 million of investment plus some of our own money. And, you know, there's other things in the pipeline. If we do get the levelling up fund money for the likes of the Bedlington Active Travel Corridor and the Hexham to Corbridge link, that will total a massive £16.6 million investment. And this is all into, as Jeff has said, healthy lives and helping decarbonise and all the rest of the good things that we want in this county.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, John. I agree with you completely, and I think that would be wonderful if we can get that extra money as well. Jan, any comments, thoughts from you on this one?
Just very briefly, Leader, if I may. As you'll see from the table at 7.4 of the report, as is our normal practice, we've applied the external funding first. Of the £3 million council contribution towards these schemes, there is currently just over 2.3 million that hasn't yet been allocated, but 2 million of that would be used as match funding for the levelling up bids that Councillor Riddle has just referred to, if they are successful. If not, the whole of that 2.364 million would be available for Cabinet to reallocate to other projects within the overall strategy. So I just wanted to clarify that point.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you for that. Okay, so could I ask if anyone would like to propose this Proposed by Councillor Watson, seconded by Councillor Wearmouth. Are we all in favour of this one? Excellent. Thank you very much. We now move on to the Reavers Trail, and there is just when we raised this a week or two ago, there were some slight concerns around the level of funding that we are going to put into this, and to ensure that we get the appropriate acknowledgement. We need to be absolutely sure of this. I'm not sure the wording is absolutely right, but let's see how we get on. Richard, over to you.
Thank you, Leader. So this is a allocation from our own budget of £150,000 to help cover the first first phase of the Reavers Trail. And as someone with border sheriffs in my family, I'm not too sure how I feel about supporting Reavers, but I will forgive it. I think that perhaps Councillor Riddle might like to speak a little bit more of it as a project, given that it is in his ward.
Councillor Riddle.
Thank you, Leader. You know, I personally, this is something that has come through the Cycling and Walking Board. It's been discussed at length there. I think it is really quite unique in that it's going to be a link really between the Sill Landscape Discovery Centre and Kielder. And, you know, it's for the distance that we're getting here, it is extremely good value, very, very cheap. It also, with being off public highways, it will be very safe, particularly for younger people and people perhaps with less ability. And, you know, I fully endorse this, but I do recognise, and I have spoken with the proposers for this, and they are very happy for us to take the credit for it, you know, duly, because we are putting a lot of money into it. And, you know, I just hope that Cabinet will support it.
Yes, I'm going to bring in Rob Murphy to outline what the acknowledgement might look like.
Yes, thanks for that, Leader. We have discussed this with them, and the branding of the project will be primarily a county council scheme, and we'll also include the logos of other partner organisations, but we will be front and centre on that, and they have agreed to that.
Okay. I think we're all very much in favour of this idea. It's just that we are contributing so much to this. And we're glad to do that, but we must make sure that that acknowledgement is there for the sake of the council taxpayers' money, which is what we're using here. So I think if we could just definitely minute that very kindly, that we've got to make sure that that is appropriate. And I think it should really come to us in draft form before we sign it off, if that's okay. Can we also minute that as well, please, Karen? And we look forward to seeing the draft communications and the draft signage and so on before it's finalised, so that we are quite happy with that. Jan, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, nothing from me, Leader.
Okay, thank you. So, is there a proposer? Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Poshai. Was it? All in favour? That's unanimous. Lovely, thank you. We look forward to seeing that up and running soon. And then the next one is Wooler.
Thank you, Leader. So this is a further investment into Wooler visitor infrastructure. And this builds on the great work that's going on already with Ad Gefren, which was supported by the Council and through the Borderlands growth deal from government, as well as obviously by Ad Gefren Distillery and Visitor Centre, who will undoubtedly become, when they open, I think next year, I think it is at the start of next year, one of the most fantastic attractions for Northumberland and for Wooler in particular, that is in need of always of additional visitors and is a fantastic destination in itself. So what's the £220,000 that's coming from strategic regen budget covering? Well, it can be outlined in 3 parts. Refurbishment of the public toilets at Wooler bus station. If you've ever been there, you can see why it would be money well spent, and I'm sure that that would be delight to visitors and locals alike. Provision of an overflow car parking facilities for the town centre to accommodate demand at peak times. Wooler is a very popular destination already, and there was a risk with the creation of Ardgeffren that we might see some of the car parking capacity overwhelmed, and so this assists greatly in that. And then finally, the creation in partnership with the National Park and with the Ardgeffren Trust of a new country park, car park, adjacent to the Ardgeffren archaeological site, which the National Park would subsequently operate and maintain. And that's a really good part of the story and the narrative around Ardgeffren as well. We have rich heritage in all parts of Northumberland, and this is a part of our history dating back to, I think it's 8th century, is it? Certainly, and beyond, in terms of what you would find there and the story that we can tell. So, great news.
Bronze Age, John, Bronze Age. I think. Yes? The Bronze Age. Yeah. That's okay. Wojciech.
I just would like to clarify a few points which Councillor Wermouth has mentioned. He said about 3 projects, including creation in partnership with National Park and Ardgeffren Trust, the new country park. I think that has been postponed due to pre-planning application, which is mentioned in further point, and that will be coming back to us in due course. But instead of that, we propose to relocate North East Ambulance Service to the fire station, which I believe will be very well welcomed by the local residents. And we have been asked a while ago to do that, and I'm glad to support it. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Jeff Watson.
Just to say how delighted I am that lots of things on this agenda today are about improving our appeal to members outside of to visitors outside of this county. Most of them that was talked about this morning, we've had funded externally, which is even better news for us. This one we have to pay some money for, but Wooler is going to benefit so much from this experience of Ardgeffren. If you haven't been, I would recommend you go. It's absolutely a fantastic investment for that part of the county and will help us in what we're trying to do with our visitor destination plan, which we discussed earlier. We don't want to flood the coast with tourists. We want people to realise that Northumberland has got so much to offer away from the coast and continue to attract visitors, but actually look after our residents as well. So I'm fully in favour of this, Chair. Thank you very much.
Indeed, good. Any other questions, comments? Jan? No?
Nothing from me, Leader.
Thank you very much. Okay, so can we go to the recommendation? Proposed by Councillor Watson, seconded by Councillor Patterson. All in favour, please show. That's unanimous, thank you. The Blythe Relief Road, Richard.
Thank you, Leader. So this is an allocation from the existing budget for the Blythe Relief Road that we just need to confirm for a total of £640,000. That will enable us to move on to the next stages of the project, which is really important to help ease congestion in Blythe and to ensure that we can attract more business into Blythe, in addition at the port, which is very successful and will only be more successful in the future as we see the growth of the offshore wind industry. The sorts of activities that this money will be spent on, you can see in the report at, I think it's 10.4. So this is looking at site investigations to make sure that we understand the ground conditions and what's underneath the likely route. Some of the more detailed design work, environmental appraisals, and preparation for the planning application that would then subsequently be lodged at the end of this stage. So this is the council getting on with the job of delivering the Blythe Release Road. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Wojciech?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just would like to say it's a critical project to future-proof and fix existing transport problems in Blythe. Design works are a very important step in this process, which will allow to improve and polish the existing proposal and make sure it's feasible, have low environmental impact, as well as serve its purpose as relief road and doesn't cause any additional traffic problems somewhere else which we may not be aware of. It's very welcome and long-awaited project for slightly neglected Blythe Road infrastructure, but I believe that with Northumberland Line will bring a significant impact for the community as well as the economy in Blythe and surroundings.
Absolutely. Good. Thank you. Any questions or queries? Jan? Okay.
Yeah, just to note, Leader, that obviously until we know the outcome of the application for Department for Transport funding, we are undertaking the design works at risk. But that's clearly that's something that we need to get on with anyway, given the importance of coming up with some sort of solution to the traffic problems. So whether we're able to proceed with DFT funding or not, this work does need to proceed. But just for Cabinet to note that we are doing it at risk at this stage.
Good. Richard?
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Jan. And just to sort of quantify that level of risk that we have, there's been a lot of discussion over the course of a number of years with DFT, with Transport for the North, to allocate this project as a priority for Transport for the North and DFT. I have to say, when we came to office in 2017, we found that we were scratching around for anything to put into these government programmes to access cash, because there hadn't been that work done in order to, to really have projects that were, for want of a better expression, oven ready. So, we do this work as a calculated risk to make sure that we are putting our best foot forward for the people of Blythe and the businesses of Blythe, because it is very much needed, and I'm very confident that that there'll be funding that will be forthcoming in some way, shape or form in due course. And I do believe that the Transport Secretary has reflected on that in questions during Transport questions in Parliament previously to the member for Blythe Valley.
Yeah, I think that's very well put. I think this is very much putting our money where our mouth is. It is a commitment of this administration, and we will. We are proud to make this first really important step, spending money to lay the way for this road to happen. So, are there any other questions or comments from anyone? If not, is to proposer. Proposed by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Poshai. All in favour? Thank you very much. And the last one, Richard.
So the last one is a sum of £30,000, well, £30,870 for a new wet room at facility at known as Sea Lodge Care Facility at Cresswell. There's quite a bit of detail there as to the reason for the work to be done and the nature of it, because it may seem initially, if you just glance at it, a large sum for a wet room. This facility is somewhere where we house people who do have particular behavioural issues and really quite complex care requirements, and it is important that we make sure that we've got the facilities to match so that our carers and support teams and staff in that building are able to do their job effectively and without risk to themselves or the people with whom they look after.
Thank you. Jeff Watson.
Cabinet members may recall when we first saw this, I questioned the amount of money for this facility. I've investigated with the officers concerned, and I'm fully satisfied that it was necessary. It's not as straightforward putting just a bathroom in, like I thought. It's lots more to it than that, and I think it's fine, and I agree with it.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions from anyone? Jan, anything from you?
Nothing to add, Leader.
Okay. Can I have a proposal, please, for this? Proposed by Councillor Wearmouth, seconded by Councillor Patterson. Are you all in favour? Yes, that's great. And that brings us to the end of this section. I just would like to say how delightful it's been to spend all this money, Jan, without you batting an eyelid. But best of all, the fact that it's spread across the county. There are 7 different parts of Northumberland that will benefit from the decisions we've made today. which will benefit residents, benefit visitors, and benefit the county as a whole. So thank you very much for allowing us to be so relaxed with our money today. Thank you, Jan. I think that, no, you're staying on, aren't you, for the next bit, which happens to be in closed session. So I'll need to, I have no urgent business, so I need to ask you to agree the recommendation to move into closed session. Moved, seconded by Councillor Wearmouth, seconded by Councillor Horncastle. All in favour, please, of that recommendation? Yes, okay. So thank you all very much for joining us. Anyone who is not I think
anyone who's not council staff has to leave.
Yeah.